Hello, my name is Amos Tarfa, and in this video I'm going to be going over order of operations. I have written a math curriculum that takes students from basic counting all the way to calculus, and the goal of this program is to help reduce inefficiency and waste of time and help students to master concepts and move along as they need to. There is one thing I will encourage every math educator and every math student to pay attention to. Whenever you do a topic in math, it's important that you know what the topic is that you're working on, right? I was talking to a student a few days ago and I asked the student, what concept are you learning in your math curriculum at home? And the student actually said, I don't know. And that was interesting and a little shocking, because here's the thing about math. Every single skill set, every single topic needs to be isolated, addressed, and mastered, right? So, for example, if I ask you, what are you working on? And you say, oh, I'm on lesson 70 in my textbook. And I ask you, what is lesson 70 about? Your answer shouldn't be, I don't know. Because in your notebook, hopefully, you wrote out what the topic was about, right? So today, we're talking about order of operations. So in your notebooks, you write order of operations. This principle applies to every curriculum, even if you are using a curriculum that's very different from some of what I talk about. The note-taking skills are the same for everybody. You should have a topic and a date, so that you remember, like in the future, you could go back to what section you need to work on. Note-taking, study skills, and on time management are very important for everyone, no matter what field you're going into. So let me give you a few examples. So in my notebook, I would say order of operations. I'll write down the date. Oops, sorry, it's 12/13/23, right? And now we're going to write example. And I'm using the example from the math drills packet that we gave to students. Some of these problems look a little interesting, so please pay attention to the step-by-step approach that we're going to use to solve these problems. So the first problem is 10, well actually it has this, divided by -10, like that, to the 7th power squared. Okay, here's the thing in math. We have a parentheses here. There are some textbooks or different examples that might use a bracket instead. The reason why we use a bracket sometimes is so that we distinguish between a parentheses and a bracket, right? It will help. But in this case, this is how the problem was written. Let's go ahead and tackle this problem. So the first step is to look at what can I do on the, what can I do with the things that are together in a parentheses. So you have here, you have here, right? So it's 10 divided by 10. That's basically, or 10 divided by -10. That's the same thing as this. So I'm just going to rewrite the problem in a way that might look more basic. So it's 10 divided by -10 raised to the power 7, and then it's squared. What's going on this inside? It's -1, right? 10 divided by -10 is -1. And then we have 7 waiting, and we have squared. Notice that I'm only changing one or two things each time. In this case, I'm just changing one thing at a time. It's important to know that in math, you might not know the whole problem, but you can take one step and do what you know, and then take the next step. It's about learning how to think mathematically. It's not just, math isn't always about just completing a worksheet. It's also learning just, how do I think better, right? So, step by step. Over here, you have -1 raised to the power 7, and you have this squared, right? There's two ways to address this, but let's just go with the simpler way. If you have an odd power, there's a rule here. If you have an odd power, that number, if it's negative, will remain negative at the end of your multiplication. So -1 times -1 times -1 times -1 times -1 times -1 times -1, 7 times, is actually equal to -1. And then, guess what? So you've used up -1 to the 7th power, and now you have -1 squared, and the answer is actually 1. Here's the interesting thing about this problem. A negative number raised to an even power will give you a positive answer. A negative number raised to an odd power will give you a negative answer. So let's remember that. So I'm going to move this out of the way here. So a negative number, if you're negative and you're raised to an odd power, you will remain negative. If you are negative and raised to an even power, you will become positive. Okay, so this is a good skill to remember. If you're a negative number raised to an odd power, you will become negative. And if you're a negative number raised to a positive power, you become positive. Here's an example. If you're a negative number raised to an even power. So let's do a quick example. Negative 2 to the third power is negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. That's negative 8. Negative 2 to the fourth power would be negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. That's positive 16. So a negative number raised to an odd power will give you a negative number at the answer. A negative number raised to an even power will give you a positive answer at the end. So very important to know that. So we've done number 1. Let's look at number 2. So example 2. And you could take notes of this. You could write it down in your own notebook to build that skill of note-taking. At Lifestem Academy, we're going to teach our students how to take notes right from elementary school all the way till they go up to college or whatever they're doing, whether they're going to trade school. We want them to be very good at taking notes. If America will dedicate some time to note-taking and study skills, I believe we'll begin to see some great gains. Note-taking, study skills, and vision casting will help change American education. Unfortunately, I think the easier path is to just settle for where you're at, don't put in the effort, and that's just not the way to go. You want to put in the effort in anything that matters, right? In America, we put a lot of effort into sports, but not always into our academics, right? Someone made a comment, sorry, quick side note here. So when I teach math, I like to integrate elements of inspiration to get people to think. That's part of why our math program is actually called Inspirational Mathematics, is that we want to inspire people to excellence using mathematics. As I said, we have 3 levels of our program. The first level is pre-algebra, which is where this will fit in. The second level is Algebra 1 and Algebra 2. And then the third level is pre-calculus and geometry. You do those 3 levels, you go into calculus with confidence. Even if you're in 7th grade, we take you to calculus if you're ready and have mastered your concepts. Anyway, sorry, back to what I was saying. But when you look at the state of affairs, you know, in America, it just saddens me because I thought math was only the only thing we were concerned about in our schools. But then someone made a comment, have you noticed that our English and reading and writing is not necessarily the best? And I realized, wait, we're not really as good in math as a nation compared to many nations. Our English and reading, we could do better. And then our science, we could do better. Our geography, we could do better as well. So then the question becomes, what are we good at, right? So let's think about that as a nation. What subjects are we good at, and what can we do to be good at all the other subjects, right? Part of it takes effort and proactivity. Okay, let's do number 2. Number 2 here, we have 2 times negative 6 divided by negative 6 times 2 close. Okay. So how do we address this problem? Well, there's something called PEMDAS, which we've discussed before. And the idea of PEMDAS is you do the parentheses and then exponents and then multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. So parentheses will be taken care of there, no problem. So we can rewrite that if you want. Divided by negative 12, right? And negative times a positive is a negative. And then we have 2 times negative 6, right? You do multiplication and division from left to right. And so we have 2 times negative 6 and then divided by negative 12, right? So we have negative 12 divided by negative 12, which is also equal to 1. So we have negative 12 divided by negative 12, which is also equal to 1. Okay, couple more examples. We have 2 plus 1 times 6 divided by negative 9. So this becomes 3 times 6 divided by negative 9. So we have 18 divided by negative 9, and that's negative 2. So we try our best to take care of things if they're in the parentheses there. And then we multiply coming across there. We have 3 times 6 is 18 divided by negative 9. Now, this could get into some controversial discussions. People might argue, wait, can't you do this part first since there's a parentheses? I don't think so. That's not the case here. But I'm just saying be aware that when you start getting into order of operations, there are some odd problems that you might encounter. Generally, though, they should be straightforward, like this problem here, which is number 7. Negative 1 cubed times 8 minus negative 2. Okay, guess what? What's negative 1 cubed? Remember what we said about the rules. A negative number raised to an odd power will be negative, so you get negative 1. 8 minus negative 2 will actually become 8 plus 2, because a negative times a negative is a positive. So we have 8 plus 2. So then we have negative 1 times 10, which is going to be negative 10. Okay, order of operations, very important concept. You need to know how to do it with whole numbers, integers, fractions, decimals, and will help you learn all those skills. This is all in Inspirational Mathematics 1, which covers everything from basic counting, place value, all the way into addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, prime factorization, fractions, decimals, percents, PEMDAS, ratios, proportions. When you finish all those concepts, then you go into algebra with confidence. That's how math works. Math needs mastery, and that's what we need to expect of our students, and give them all the resources they need to master the concepts. Please feel free to subscribe for more videos like this. Share this with your friends. My videos are available to students in other places, not just in our school here. So if you want to learn more math based on mastery, feel free to subscribe to our program. Email me if you like our program as well. Take care. Have a blessed day.